gonna let my soul surrender. I know that's all I ever wanted for a life. I thought that would be like kind of plenty. If I could figure any of that out. And if I'm figuring it out, I'm not surrendered, right? Good morning. Good morning. It's so wonderful to be here. I bring you great tidings and greetings from the Agape International Spiritual Center, with the founder and the director of Michael Bernard Beckwith. I know we are already associated and affiliated, but I just want you to know he sent his big woohoo to you. So, wow. So here's how I'm going to do this. I like to start almost everything I do with the language of Jesus. It's called Aramaic. Aramaic, without giving a history lesson, was the lingua franca of his world, like English is our language of this nation. That's what he had. Mary Magdalene, all of them are speaking Aramaic. And so I would like to begin with what we know of as the Lord's Prayer. You know, we grew up with that, the Lord's Prayer, but I'd like for you to hear it. I bring the gift of you getting to hear it in this ancient tongue that his first hearers also had the pleasure and the joy of hearing it in. So if you would unfurl yourselves, that means like uncross things. Because we know some of you were there. So seem a little familiar. So we're unfurling because we're going to be talking about the Christ. And it's the Christ that utters this prayer through the life of this man named Yeshua, in Greek, Jesus. So just have a breath. And let this breath be an escort to the center of your being. Awun, Dwashmeya, Nith Kadash Shmach, Te Mo Kuthach, Netwe Sevyanach, Ikana Dwashmeya Akbar, Haulan Lachma, Disunkanan Yaumana, Washwoklan, Chilbain Ikana Dak Kanan Shawaken, Elhayawain, Ula Tatlan El Nishona, Elapasan Nin Bisha, Mito Delachi, Maukutha, Uhaila, Utish Bokta, El Alam, Almin, Amen. Isn't that sweet? That this still is here on this earth and that we're in on it? Oh, wonderful. Well, I get to talk to you about the symptoms of the Christ. Now, I like that idea, like symptoms. Like, that's like a whole other way to come at something, right? I mean, I could have been polite, and sometimes I am. And I could have said the signs, but we're used to that. But I wanted to, I thought of the Christ consciousness like carries symptoms, like how my grandmother said, "Child, you better get yourself in here. They're going to catch you the devil cold." And if you came into the house after playing out in the warm summer rains and you sneezed, she'd go, "There you go. There's one of them symptoms." There's one of those symptoms, right? And so many times we're talking about in the world, in the wide world, about the symptoms being something that comes with something that's other than. So I thought I'd steal the word and use it for my own devices. And so I would say that there's a state of consciousness which is actually your destiny that brings symptoms of it. And once you have been near the presence of the Christ of your own being, there's a life that is now available available to you and is yours to live, which is actually your destiny. Just like my grandmother said, you're going to start sneezing and coughing. No, you're going to start doing some uncontrollable behaviors when the Christ becomes real to you. It's one thing, you see, to talk about the Mona Lisa, right? But it's another thing to have gone over there and seen it hanging on the wall. I was all Frida Kahlo for years. Oh, Frida Kahlo this and Frida Kahlo that. Frida to the left, Frida to the right. Stand up, sit down, Kahlo, white. And then I got to go to a showing. And it was totally different than what the magazines had shown. It took my breath away to see the brush strokes, to see how that really was. Well, some of us, none of us in this room, have had a great conversation about God, yet ain't quite seen it yet. Uh-oh. Yeah, I know it's no one, it's the people across the street. That's because they stayed at Starbucks. So there's one thing to have a conversation about the presence of God, and then there's another to have the occurrence. Right? So when the occurrence happens at whatever level, because the teacher, Yeshua, has already said you don't need much of God, right? You only need about as much as a mustard seed, right? And in our teachings, we know that any part of God, like a hologram, any aspect of God is all of God in that one place. So there's no place where you get halves or 3/4 of a God. Any part of you that touches upon that which is the truth of your life brings you the whole entire thing. So I was thinking about symptoms of this Christ. Now this word Christ in the Bible, right, that word is Messiah, Mashiach, depending if you're doing Aramaic or Hebrew, where the accent falls. And that word has to do with being oiled or ordained, right? So when Dr. Erico decided that it was time for me to be ordained into the teachings that he had inherited from George M. Lamsa, right? He came up with this great ceremony, and I went out and shopped till I nearly dropped to get everything. We had invitations. It was so wonderful. It occurred here in Orange County. And then he was talking to me in a small group of folk, and he was telling me how the ordination service was going to go. So for him, he was going to go do it the old-fashioned way. This is like thousands of years ago, and maybe currently. He was going to get a ram's horn, and he was going to fill it with oil. And at my ordination, he was going to ordain me or pour the oil up on top of my head. Now, I already had a Jerry curl, so I'm just saying, church, I had more. And I had this multi-$100 dress and all this. And I told my teacher, it's not enough extra virgins in the oil. So you be pouring oil on me when I got to send pictures to my family. I don't think so. We're going to need a modified version. You take the Aramaic, I'll take the King James. Let's just put a finger in, whoa, right? So this getting oiled, right, was no small thing. They didn't have a Bible. They didn't swear on the Torah of people into office. They oiled you in. So if we were going to speak correctly about Yeshua, we wouldn't say like Jesus. Well, they don't have commas in his world. Jesus, comma, the Christ. That's very English, right? So in his world, he would have been Jesus anointed, Jesus oiled, or maybe Jesus canola, Jesus rapeseed, Jesus sunflower, Jesus the greasy. He would have, because his life was going to be slippery and slidey. He was not going to be a life that caused friction. He was going to be a life soaked in the presence of God, that his life was going to be the wick. And the passion of his encounter with the presence itself would catch him on fire at such a level that the rest of us who felt a bit unlit could bend our life toward his light and become lit our very own selves. That makes him someone not to be worshipped, but someone to be followed and understood as an example of what it's like to live a lit life, not by theory and chit-chat, but an actual lived everyday life, to live a lit life. So we have symptoms of being lit up. So there's the Christ, which means the oiled, the buttered, the greasy, the saffron, the grapeseed. Okay, yes, I am being funny. Such a long way to come and have no humor. Amen. So I thought I would tell you or share with you what's going to occur as the Christ comes near you. Now, I used to, and still sometimes do, enjoy a good lie about my age. It seems to be natural. And one day, my father, God rest his soul now, he heard me tell this whopper of a story. It seemed true to me. I could have passed it. The electronic test. I believed it. The number I had said. And my father went in and had completed, and the young people had gone away, and he said, now he's Southern. He was Southern. And he called me sis. Now, sis, I'm thinking you shouldn't, when you don't tell the truth about your age, you scare the young people. That's what 36 looks like. Lord, who wants to be 36? And that just goes with what's going to happen to you as you have an encounter with the Lord God of your very being, which is actually your destiny. I want you to know that something has to happen. You don't get to come upon the presence of the one upon the one of the one and get away with it and go have a regular life. Your regular life ends and your lit life begins forevermore. I just have a few moments to go. So I got to tell you this one thing. Something about your life is going to become uncontrollable. You won't be able to control certain parts of your life once the encounter occurs. It's one of the symptoms. And one of the symptoms of the Christed life is the uncontrollable capacity to forgive. Oh my God, you're going to be forgiving all the wrong people. You're going to be forgiving the unforgivable. Right? You're going to be forgiving when you know that those people need to be on the hook. 5 more days, 5 more weeks. They've done you wrong. That's just not right, Reverend Joanne. And so you're going to hold them hostage. But right? Because some of us have people hidden in the dungeons of our consciousness. We have kept these people on the hook and won't let them go. But I tell you, the only reason they're not gone is because the encounter is yet to be your destiny. But as soon as your destiny to be one with the one of the one, you easily let people go. And you turn the dungeons in your mind into studios. And make something of it. When what's unmanageable, the unmanageable forgiveness, allows you to turn on a dime and stay so open to the presence that when people come near you, they just get free. People who have lived under the house arrest of their own consciousness, who couldn't let something go just because you come into the room. Your unmanageable forgiveness allows them to let go as well. There is something unmanageable about Christ's consciousness, and it is your unmanageable forgiveness.
Wow.
Oh, I've got 5 minutes. I better pick the 3 I like the most. Or you'll just have to have me come back.
Yes.
So there's the unmanageable see-to-itness. What? Yeah. The unmanageable see-to-itness. See, when the Christ is actually awake in you, you become a man, you become a woman that God called you to be, and on your watch, you see to it that the people around you, well, their life goes well. It just goes well, and you see to it. You finally can, and you finally do. When the Christ is actually awake in you, what becomes unmanageable is your ability to let people drown on your watch. Suddenly, when the Christ is awake in you, gurgling and drowning sounds of your friends and family, and some philosophy that says, well, you know, Reverend Joy, they did choose it. I'm just talking about when the Christ gets here. I know. You become unmanageable. You have an unmanageable see-to-itness. Is that okay?
Yes.
You have this wild hair trigger forgiveness.
Yes.
Oh my God, did I mess up and forgive you? When you live a forgiven life, everyone you meet walks safely on the streets of your consciousness.
Yes.
And will not be mugged by gossip.
Yes.
You will have unmanageable closeness. When the presence of Christ is alive and alert in you, your ability to be close is now unmanageable. You will be close to people you know you shouldn't be close to them. You didn't like them last night. And now you've messed around, forgiven them, and are see-toing it that it goes their way. That it goes well, and you will be close. Because a symptom of the presence of God is oneness.
Yes.
One of the symptoms is oneness. And as a lived life, you are close to everyone because you really know who and what they are. You really can detect it. It'll be like namaste, but not an intellectual namaste. The God in me is supposed to God in you. No, I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the other one. I'm talking about the unmanageable namaste. That when you really come upon that, when you can really detect the Christ as that other person, you get knee buckling as one of your symptoms. You won't be able to say it glibly. Nothing glib about namaste. It'll cause a tremble up and down your spine. The divine shiver will occupy your awareness, and you'll barely be able to say it at all. And then and then finally, I'm concluding with this. When the Christ awakens, when the oil, the slippery slidiness of a Christ consciousness that is a lit life and causes no friction can become friction-free, you have unmanageable love.
Oh,
When
yes.
you have unmanageable love, you will no longer pick and choose who to love. You'll just be able to do it all the time, and in front of, with all kinds of people that weren't available to you last night. But today, in the presence of the oiled, slippery, slidey, lit life of your awareness, you can do something we hardly ever risk doing, which is we will squander our love. Because we're dealing with something infinite. And most of the time we're so measured with our love. We're like so careful. I'm so careful. Like I've just got to dole it out. Like I better not go for it. I only knew you 1 week. I can't be loving you that much. I got to wait 21 more days. I got a standard. I got a template for when loving you is okay. And I've got my timer and my stopwatch. But when the presence of God itself becomes your very life, you can play the game called I squandered my love, I spilled it all over the place. And what you take out of love, there's still some love you can't lose love by giving love. And finally, since you're in a consciousness that now has no loss, now there's nothing to lose, then everything that is within you is yours now free. You're free to give it all and stop living so tight and squeezed. And if we love God, like my father said, don't lie to the young people. You have to notify your face that God is real.
Yes.
Because when it don't look good on you, anybody want to know what you want? You can give them all the books. You know the right books you bought for those people.
Yes.
They just really got to read this.
Yes.
I got to get them this CD. Okay, none of you have done that?
Yes.
When the presence of God arrives, you can give your life completely over to it, and it will support and sustain you always. You get to live an unmanageable life, an unmanageable generosity, an unmanageable prosperity. It all becomes unmanageable because you can tell that it's infinite and there's more than enough to go around. People are free on your watch. It's one of the symptoms. People stop drowning on your watch. People's souls stop itching on your watch. People's lives just get better on your watch. Oh my gosh, Yeshua means the resuscitator. So you bring a breath they ain't never breathed before. And maybe you'll have one you haven't had before either.
Yes.
I conclude with this. From this day forward, I want you to create another kind of journal. I want you to create an evidence journal. And in it, I want you to write every day not only your gratitudes, but the evidence that the consciousness of Christ has lived its life through you. I want you to record every day that you are a person who's been breathed upon, breathed through, and breathed as. Collect the evidence that you are the next walking, living Christ upon this earth. And as the congregation, as we prepare our offering of our gifts, tithes, we become vessels through which something flows, something arrives, and something continues on even past us. We are the legacy of this church. We're building it now. And we know that this offering goes forth into the lives of this ministry, into the soul of this place, the center of this place, and it provides blessings all over. And then for the tither, the giver himself, herself, everything is returned to you. Everything you let go of into this basket returns to you 100-fold. And so it is. So it is. Go forth and multiply.